Alright, good morning everyone. Welcome back. And yes, it's been a real long minute, but finally we've been able to produce our Spring Summer 2020 for Blackbean Grocery, and our hair product for this season is the Dailo styling powder. Essentially a volumizing, texturizing powder. So if any of you have used powders before, you never use them ever again because they just don't really provide much. When you go to the barbershop, if they choose to use it, they then blow dry your hair, which is what provides you that volume. The powder doesn't really do much on its own. And so even back as like the Pomp, I've experimented before with creating like powders via collaborations with people, but nothing worked. I mean, we powderized some like clay, and like some starch powder, some arrowroot powder. Like we did things that in theory should provide texture in pomade, but when they're on their own, they just don't do that. They just don't work. But this time around, very proud, being able to produce something that would actually truly provide texture and volumizing powder, and we'll show you. So this is essentially like a super absorbent powder. You'll also see water in the ingredients, rose water specifically, because that also provides a very subtle scent to kind of just accommodate and work with those of us who are using a cologne, like another cologne. So it's not meant to like overpower that, but the powder is super absorbent. We put water to kind of pull back because even on its own it is insanely aggressive. And so we dilute a bit, we soften it a bit, and what happens is this thing not only soaks up the moisture, but provides friction between your hair follicles, as in it gives like a teased effect to your hair, allowing your hair that when you start to finger comb it and overlay it, when they go over one another, they kind of catch one another. And then if you try to add volume, they kind of stay in suspension using kind of the friction between one another. So it's essentially, like I said, like a powder, similar to a sea salt spray. If you spray them, they can get messy. So my preferred application method is actually to just like kind of put a little bit in their hands. And I know it's not pomade, but smear it a bit, and then allows you to kind of target where you actually want it. Because if you apply directly to your hair, it can kind of fall in areas and then catch wherever it immediately falls, which tends to cause it to kind of just clump up in certain areas. And by putting a little bit in your hand, you minimize the amount that kind of just, I guess, falls off your hair onto the ground and everywhere else, and you're able to actually get it where you want. Like, yes, I want a little on the top layer, but then also to target towards the front, I'm able to get it down near the roots to provide a little bit of volume and texture where I actually need it. It has like a very light and subtle rose aroma that is just very much in the background. Just something that is nice so that it just doesn't smell like baby powder or something. But you can already see, like before my hair was extremely straight, it was just towel dried, and now it's starting to kind of have a little more character to it. It's starting to catch one another. You get a little bit of texture, and you'll see as I finger comb it, you'll notice that like my hand can't run through it perfectly because of the friction that's there. And it's that same friction that makes it difficult to run your fingers through later on that provides you that texture. And so that's the effect, that's like the teased effect that I'm talking about. And so, and as you can see, it gives you like a very natural finish, as though you have nothing in it. So it's different from a sea salt spray, which gives you a similar feel, but it has this like, not wet, but like this more dense feel to it. This one is a lot more airy, and it's completely dry, so it has like a nice, like you just don't feel like anything's in your hair. And it has a completely like matte finish, but the important thing is like with people with black hair, when you try to get things too matte, it's very sensitive. It turns gray, it turns dull, it looks weird and extremely unhealthy. So it was something we had to really dial in, and I'm really proud that we were able to achieve like a nice balanced feel to it. In the case that you ever end up with like a little bit too much in your hair, this is like an absorbent product. You counteract it by giving it moisture. So like wet your hands and you'll be able to run through it a little bit more, and then kind of style to your needs. Wetting your hands a bit also allows you to catch any like kind kind of stray hairs that you kind of have missed just because it's a dry and powder product versus like a spray or something. That is something that tends to happen. Whether or not it's like with your aesthetic or not is up to you. And as you can see, I'm like styling it purely with my hands just because that friction is really unfriendly towards combing now. And so other ways to use the product that I prefer would be like kind of to base it with like a texturizing cream or like the superior clay and then touch this with the top just to give an effect only on the outside where it's visually needed. Potentially you can also use it with the 3 beans for a long hair pompadour in order to style that, get that volume, and then powder your hands in order to get completely matte and like a textured finish on the outside as well. So it's a lot of ways to think about it, but anyways, go ahead, wrap this one up, give it like a few hours, and then come back so you can see how it fares throughout the whole day. Because as with many other kind of absorbent products, there is moisture in the environment, and so that is a tendency to dilute the effectiveness of the product. But what you'll see later on is just how much volume for absorbency it has, such that like you can see the effectiveness of the texturizing and the volumizing to last throughout the entire day. But we'll show you that. Alright, so we're back now, and it's been about, let's see, 8 hours, and as you can see, not much has changed. I mean, it still has the same effect, still same finish, and the same ability to texture your hair. You still have the difficulty, like it's still, the friction is still there. If you want to run your hands through, you will feel that resistance, and you see that ability to get some volume. Like the reality is this, like the core ingredient is like super absorbent, and so during the day there's humidity in the air, there is natural oils that come out of your hair, and there's just moisture in from the environment. And even though that is theoretically going to weaken it, it doesn't effectively weaken it to an extent until like the next day. Let's say like I don't shower at night and I shower in the morning. Like when I wake up, I still have a very similar amount. Diluted a bit, yes, especially since like sleeping on the pillow, oil is there, gets absorbed, but you still have some styling there. So effectively, you get about 12 hours of solid matte texturizing, volumizing effect using this standalone. If you do choose to mix it with something else, that will take a few hours away, but you still get that, like whatever you kind of start the morning with is the effect that you still have throughout the day. So yeah, this is kind of what we really wanted to achieve with the Dailo styling powder. This is exactly what he had hoped, and for my selfish framework with previous experience from the Pomp, like this is my own desire to add another tool to your arsenal. Just because it's something that hasn't worked in the past, I wanted to use this product in order to prove to you that like if we kind of reformulate it a bit to cater to our specific needs, there is definitely a chance for us to use it here and kind of make unique use of it. So we now have it available as a standalone for $16 on the Black Bean Grocery website. I've also decided to kit it with things that I think is logical, with like the texturizing cream, the 3 beans, like just things that I think are good bases, and this as a topper. So you see that on the website, you see any other like new updates we have there. But either way, stay safe, please stay safe, and enjoy the rest of your summer, even though this is not your normal summer. I hope you guys are able to get haircuts or find someone, a housemate, a partner to cut your hair or something. Luckily, my girlfriend's been amazing and has been able to give me her time in order to cut my hair. But yeah, so stay safe, y'all, and I'll see you maybe again in the future, or at least through the Instas and the interweb.